Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/entitled for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Zawa Safler. Woman demands I call police because of car and handicap spot. So today I drove my mother to an appointment. We both qualify for handicap parking, and I do have handicap plates. I walked my mother into the office where she has an appointment, and there's almost no seating. So I tell her I'll wait outside since I don't need to be in the appointment with her. It's a really nice day, so I sit on a concrete retaining wall about 15 feet from my car and read on my phone. After about 20 minutes, I notice a woman about my age has pulled up behind my car and is just looking at it. After a couple of minutes, she spots me, comes over, and demands to let her use my phone. I ask her why, and she said her phone wasn't working and she wanted to report someone illegally using a handicap spot. I asked her where that car was since you could see the little wheelchair on my plate from where we were, and there were no other handicap spots in view. She points at my car. I asked what made it an illegal park job, and her response was that was where she always parks. I told her that was my car. It wasn't moving until my passenger came out, and it was legally parked. She stomped off towards my car, so I started recording her. When she reared back to kick the car, I yelled out that she was on candid camera, and I had her plate number if she damaged the car and tried to run off. She got in her car and drove away. About 30 minutes later, a city cop came by, stopped, looked at my car, and then drove off, so I assume she found a working phone somewhere. Something that I've never really understood, and maybe someone can shine a light on it, is that anyone who has a disability plaque or lives with someone who's disabled or has family who's disabled, I mean, they should know that disabilities come in all shapes and sizes. You may not be able to see it, but it could certainly still be there. So it always just kind of boggles my biscuit. The fuck does that mean? When there's someone who makes such a big fuss about the fact of like, I have a handicap plaque, but obviously you're not handicapped, so you should not be parking in this spot. So I don't understand it, I guess. I have a little bit more sympathy for someone who, is able-bodied and may not be around disabled people and just wants to be an advocate and doesn't realize that just because I'm not limping or in a wheelchair doesn't mean that I may not have a disability. And I can give a little bit of sympathy and credit to those ones. It's still incredibly rude and disrespectful, but their frustrations are more understandable, not justified, just understandable, than someone who is handicapped and arguing with someone about how their disability, isn't as valid as theirs or something along those lines. I don't know. I see stories like this pop up a lot, and it really just gives me so many questions, and I don't know. Maybe someone can help enlighten me on this one. Trojan X. Don't work for them even though they offered you better opportunities. I was the one that made you. The quote said wasn't actually spoken, but it was implied. Recently, I applied for a job within the same company, but at a different building/person. I had informed my boss about the interview, and she was delighted because she thought I'd still work with her part-time. Until I mentioned they offered me full-time, 9 to 6. I have worked for my boss for 2 years part-time because I was studying, but decided to drop out of college after a year to focus on earning money, then spending more years into getting the degree because I was broke, barely earned enough to move out, and was impatient. I'm 25 female. Felt behind compared to my peers who already had their degrees in places of their own. I graduated high school late, at 21. My boss was aware of this, yet did not offer me a full-time position despite having more free time, and only gave me a $1 raise. I was naive enough to think that there was no full-time position considering my coworkers don't work full-time either, and she accused it of being because they have another job. Because I want to earn more pay per month and with my experience with the company, I thought to apply to other branches to occupy the rest of my week, but when the interview ended, the manager of that branch mentioned the possibility of working full-time after some months working there, and she showed me the hours, which had me shocked. It felt like my potential was being wasted at my current job. A few days later, I informed my boss of the offer because I innocently thought she would be accepting of my possible transfer and help me prepare. Instead, she became angry and stated How could I have the audacity to betray her? After all I've done for her? After all these years? She will give that other person a piece of her mind. No way I should consider that position after how hard she worked to train me. I must prioritize her. How dare they offer that to her worker? Not once had she given me a better offer for me to want to stay. Throughout the time that I had worked for her, she belittled me, compared me to others, made me cry in front of everyone, made me feel guilty over little mistakes. She would also breathe down my neck, instruct me to do something, but get angry when I do it, and I tend to people please, and despite all of this, I stayed, because I didn't want to be left without a job. But I received an email that I got accepted for the job today, 20th of February 2025, and will have my employment contract soon. I will finally be free. Edit, thank you to everyone with your kind words, suggestions, and congratulations. Some small updates, which will be the last I will edit this post. I'll start my new job very soon and sign the contract of employment and officially resign my old job. My boss had made things harder before my last day working there, and even tried getting my coworkers on her side, but they didn't entertain what she was saying about me and stayed silent, probably to avoid the same treatment. They wished me the best and are sad to see me go, but they understood the circumstances. Hopefully that'll be all. In my opinion, the only time that you should ever consider turning down a better job possibility is if it is in direct conflict with your spouse or significant other. Like, let's say you're in a position where you just received a hell of a job opportunity, but it would disenfranchise your spouse or your loved one. And, before you take that job opportunity, you should have that conversation with your significant other to make sure they're comfortable with that. That is the only time that I would ever recommend with hesitating to take a new job offer or potentially leaving it on the floor. But if the person that's trying to prevent you from taking that job offer is a friend, or perhaps even a coworker, or a former boss, then yeah, fuck them. If someone who is not influential or important to your day-to-day life is trying to dictate what job opportunities you should be taking, then you should probably just not listen to them and do what's best for you. In this situation, I'm very happy that OP put themselves first and did not listen to their weirdly abusive boss. Funny enough, I actually had a situation very similar to this when I was first leaving the fast food job that I have so many horror stories about. When I actually got my first internship as a software developer with a DoD contract, I let them know, like, hey, in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be leaving. I told them that this Sunday, gave them an exact date, would be my last day. They tried scheduling me for the next Monday. That was no longer within the realm that I had given my 2 weeks for. And I had told them, like, I'm not coming in that day. I'm starting my new job. It's a paid internship and it pays double what you guys are offering me. And the manager had the gall to say, like, well, you could just tell them that you're still wanting to come in on weekends and you're not going to be able to work as many hours at the new place because you're still very invested in making sure that our restaurant is going to be all right. I'm like, are you going to pay me like $14 an hour? No. Then fuck off. Like, what? Why would I do that? Like, seriously, I would be working half the time at the internship and making the same amount of money. Why would I do that to myself, huh? They had an incredibly high turnover rate, and I had worked there for nearly a year at that point in time, and I was one of the few employees that was actually staying around because my buddy was leaving for the Navy, and he was also working there, and there was just a massive amount of people that were just leaving in the month of May because school was getting out, people were leaving for college, and it was just a pretty massive turnover rate, and I was also starting a new internship. So yeah, they kind of did get fucked over, but I gave them a 2-week warning, so it wasn't my fault. Instead, they tried to guilt trip me into staying for longer at a lower pay rate because, yeah. Extension piece 6114. Tried to help a friend in need. This was back in 2016. My ex-husband and I just moved into our new house in October 2016. My friend, Susan, her 3 girls and 2 dogs were getting evicted from their residence in November. I offered them a temporary place to stay until they found a permanent place. The kids were the same age as my kids and were in the same activities. I thought they would be there for 1 to 2 months and find a place. The first month was fine. We set chore schedules for each of our kids and everyone was getting along. Starting month 2, Susan and her girls started to see the house as theirs, and we were an inconvenience to them. Susan was not able to find a place due to her eviction and she quit looking for places. When my family wanted to cook dinner, take a shower, or watch TV on one of the two family rooms, it was an issue. They started to complain about having to do chores around the house. One of the girls, 10, was sharing a room with one of my daughters and making my daughter feel unwelcome in her own room. The final straw came when my daughter had a birthday party, and I asked them to find another place to stay for the weekend. Susan had a fit when she found out her daughter was not invited to the birthday party. My daughter did not want to invite her, as she was sick of the daughter and her friends did not like her daughter. Susan yelled at my daughter and told her she was a spoiled brat and selfish for not inviting her daughter. Susan also made several derogatory remarks to my daughters after this about how they need to mind their own business and quit being bratty. My ex-husband had enough. He told me they had to go and gave Susan an eviction notice of 30 days. The next 30 days was horrible. The youngest daughter kept telling my two daughters it was their fault. They were getting kicked out of their house. Fortunately, they spent most of the time at Susan's boyfriend's house. But when they were here, it was a nightmare. She did not pack anything until moving day. So my family bagged everything in black garbage bags and boxes and put them on our front porch. We took pictures of everything as we know her history of being vindictive. We had a family friend come over to be here as a witness just in case anything happened when she came to get her stuff. She was welcome to come in the house to make sure she had everything, but never rang the doorbell or came in the house. We thought everything was fine. 3 months later, we received a summons on the mail that we were being sued for missing items. We couldn't believe it. She sued us for over $750 of missing items. There was nothing missing. We made sure of it. We wanted nothing of hers. We filed a counterclaim for damages she made to the house for more than the amount of her claim. We were hoping we could get her to drop her claim with our claim or to offset her claim by ours. Day of court. She had 2 claims that day. She also sued an ex-boyfriend for 2 jet skis he was storing. He said he sold the jet skis to offset the fees for fixing them. He also, unknowingly, had her ex-boyfriend's stolen car at his house and the cops showed up to get the car. We tried to negotiate with her and she said no. The judge was not impressed with her having 2 claims in one day and not being prepared. Needless to say, we won our case. Well, a month later, we received notification she appealed, and we had to go back to court over this. She asked for a continuance as she said she did not know there was a hearing. The judge was not impressed. The judge pretty much told Susan if she showed back up in her courtroom, the judgment would be the same. This time, she would also have to pay for our lawyer fees as well. After a month of messing around and a day before court, she finally signed the court documents to drop her case against us. To this day, she tells everyone how we screwed her and treated her badly. We just tried to help a family in need and give them shelter for several months when they didn't have anywhere else to go. I'm not sure I'll do that again. Yes, the classic saying of no good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, she's definitely just living in her own world, thinks she has everything figured out, and that's pretty evident by the fact that she's also dragged her kids into her mishmashed reality. I mean, kids will end up repeating what their parents say. That's just, what kids do. So the fact that her daughters are telling OP's daughters, it's your fault we're losing our house, that means that there's been multiple points that she's told the kids that this is their house and, not OP's when she was being gracious enough to let her stay there until they found a place to live. Like, not to mention, she was given a 30 days eviction notice and she had plenty of time to pack. Chose not to, and her stuff was put outside, which, that was her choice. She fucked that up. And honestly, the fact that she dragged it into the courtroom is honestly just pathetic and wasn't prepared for anything going on. Like, if you're suing someone and you're dragging them into the courtroom, you better have all your ducks in a row or else you're just gonna look like a goddamn fool. Hosted by Ofer. He was pretty and pretty dumb. On Friday, I took my girlfriend, her daughter, who's a senior in high school, and her daughter's boyfriend to see Blue Man Group. I invited girlfriend's daughter because she's a theater kid and she wanted to bring her boyfriend so it wouldn't be weird. Adding more teenagers to a situation kinda guarantees weird will happen, but with age comes wisdom, and Arguing with a teenager when her mom is right there seems like a no-win proposition. So, boyfriend got a free ticket and tagged along. We all load up in my car and drive to the show. It's a good show, we all enjoyed ourselves, and I went home after dropping everyone off. Called it a successful mission, everyone was happy. I went to bed content and woke up to the worst kind of morning. My dog needed grooming. This is a very traumatic process for both of us, but man, you could tell he walked in the room because the smell just punched you square in the face. It was necessary. The process starts by drugging him with breakfast. It was vet-prescribed anti-anxiety meds. The drugging is necessary because at one point when I reclaimed him from that place of horrors, the groomer said he was a little anxious. Read, a gigantic pain in the ass. So, drugs. Because if you're going to leave your fur baby with someone for hours, best to be as accommodating as possible, and it's kind of hard to be a pain in the ass when you're high as a kite. Regrettably, at this point, the jig is up once he's drugged, because he knows he's getting drugged before he gets groomed. There's much wailing and gnashing of teeth. He refuses to get out of the car and forgets how to legs once he's pried out of the car. Saturday was no different. He was feeling particularly uncooperative too. Job got done though. A few hours later, I reclaimed him, and he forgave me eventually. Earlier today, I got a phone call from my girlfriend, and she was already wheezing. Once it was understood that this was mirth and not sobbing, I got the tea. All of this is secondhand. I have no idea how fraud prevention or finance in general work. At some point in the past, the boyfriend or the boyfriend's parents had their card details stolen, which sucks. However, the money that had been stolen was returned, because the purchases made weren't legitimate. Boyfriend learned the wrong lesson from that particular sequence of events. He thought if he made a bunch of purchases and lost the card, he'd get all the things he wanted for free. So, boyfriend, thinking he was being clever, anonymously gifted a bunch of expensive things he thought his girlfriend might like and had them shipped to her house. He then lost his card in the backseat of my car. Whether that was to implicate me or what, I have no idea. Boyfriend claimed that his card had been lost or stolen and a bunch of purchases had been made with it after it had been lost. Right after he got confirmation the package was delivered. Whoever he claimed this to investigated and found a bunch of anonymous purchases being shipped to a location he'd shipped numerous things to before, just with her name or his on them, not anonymous. Not being stupid, said financial institution promptly said, "Nuh-uh." I am unsure if boyfriend was already in trouble or what, but he really was after what happened next. Remember how my dog and I had an impromptu wrestling match to get him into the place where I outsourced my bath guilt? Yeah. Card got knocked out of my car and onto the ground. I didn't notice because I was busy trying to extricate a very unhappy and already kind of stoned 38-pound canine without breaking anything. Said previously ejected card had been picked up by someone and used a lot in a lot of places. Because there was already a very recent lost or stolen card that was firmly nuh-ud, apparently it's going to be a lot harder to get the funds back for the actual bogus charges. Boyfriend was apparently very upset with the sequence of events. He was properly devastated when my girlfriend's daughter dumped his ass. I'd like to think she dumped him because he tried to throw me under the bus. I'm actually almost positive she dumped his ass because of his fraudulent little care package. Said package was delivered to her father's house with current resident as the intended recipient, from Anonymous. It included a big bottle of fragrance that girlfriend's daughter likes to wear, and some lingerie in her size, along with several other very expensive things, which were remote-controlled and anatomically unlikely. Girlfriend's ex-husband found this hilarious and hasn't stopped giving his daughter a hard time about it. She got pissed about the hard time her father was giving her and called her mom to complain. Her mom, being the sympathetic sort she is, consoled her with, "Well, we knew he was very pretty and pretty dumb. What did you expect?" So I do hope this can go without saying, but don't do this. This is a really good way to end up with fraud charges or worse, so definitely just don't be stupid. Also, just kind of some general advice that I learned. This can also apply where even if your card is taken by like your child or by like a family member and used, and you don't recognize the purchases and actually report those as fraudulent, That actually goes under a category of friendly fraud, which is still a crime and can definitely cause a lot of headaches down the line. So just definitely be careful as to who has access to your card at any given time. I know that sounds like, well, duh, Oz. But seriously, all it takes is one kid with sticky fingers, and the next thing you know, you have like $3,000 of V-Bucks purchases on your card, and no one wants that. This actually kind of reminds me of like a few months ago when there was the TikTok trend where you essentially commit check fraud by writing a check to yourself for like $30,000 and then cashing the fraudulent check, and it was being promoted on TikTok as infinite money glitch. And like a bunch of people just like filmed themselves committing check fraud. If something seems too good to be true when it comes to getting money or getting rich quick, 99.99, however long you want to put those nines down the line, it's probably too good to be true. Everyone worth their salt knows the real money's in ferret breeding. Past division. Entitled customer mad we won't refund him for an item he bought 12 years ago. So I work at a call center for a certain members-only bulk store chain, specifically in the online branch. One of the perks we offer our customers is an almost comically lenient return policy. We started limiting certain electronics to 90 days from the date of delivery back in 2016. This will be important later. And our returns team needs to look over and approve any returns for orders over 2 years old. But, by and large, we'll accept anything. I like this policy. It's a lot easier for me to just process a return than it is to argue with the customer for 20 minutes about how, no, sir, it's not our fault that you didn't think to open the box until well after 90 days and now the computer doesn't work. I can get you over to warranty, but beyond that, my hands are tied. The customers like this policy because it means they basically can return stuff whenever they want within reason. Returns usually approves the 2+ year requests unless it's something egregiously dumb. The key word there is within reason. It's too early into my shift. I don't think I'd even had my first break at this point. Phones are dead at this time of day, as is typical once the holiday order rush and the post-holiday return rush subsides. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the fuck 71 down on my crossword puzzle is when a call comes through. I snap to attention, give my spiel, and ask what the guy needs. Nobody came to pick up the stove I'm returning. They delivered the new one and took the gas range, but I still have an electric one to return. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, sir. I'd be happy to see what's going on. I check the logistics scheduler. Only return this guy has is for the one that got picked up. I ask if he has the order number for the item being returned. He does not. I pull up his order history and ask him when he ordered the item. For context, the order history we see on our end only goes back to about 2017. I think August of 2013. Oh, so it's gonna be one of those calls, huh? I'm not looking forward to having to fart around in the DOS system to find this guy's order number, but at this point I'm figuring he just had an old phone number on the order and that's why his pickup isn't in our scheduler with the rest of his orders. After about 20 minutes of checking every single membership number on file in our DOS system, the guy claimed he had never changed his membership number at any point, he was wrong, and multiple assertions of, the last people just pulled it right up. Bullshit, not only do you not have the order number, but it's tied to your wife's membership number from over 20 years ago and can't even be pulled up with your info at all. Believe me, I fucking tried. I find the order. The return is canceled because our returns team didn't think refunding a 12-year-old stove because it stopped working after 12 years of no issue with it judging by our records is in the spirit of a return policy, since it's highly unlikely the issue is caused by a manufacturing defect at this point. I could go on about planned obsolescence and how things used to be built to last, but unfortunately, 12 years is honestly a pretty hefty shelf life for a home appliance these days, and it's definitely well out of any warranty we have. I explain this to the customer as gingerly as I can, and he demands to know why we didn't tell him this years ago. I'm grandfathered into your 90-day return policy, aren't I? When did that change? Why didn't you tell me years ago that you weren't going to accept my return anymore? I need to escalate this right now. I try to explain to him that these sort of situations are handled on a case-by-case basis, and it's less that there's a hard limit now, And more than a 12-year-old appliance starting to have issues can't really be considered a manufacturer defect that we're obligated to refund you for. He's not having it and asks for a superior. You got it, sir. I kick him over to my superior, who's like, a stove not working after 12 years isn't really something we can blame on the manufacturer. It's not like we sold him a lemon. And move on, but not before he gives me this gem. If I had known you wouldn't accept my return now, I would have returned this years ago. So basically just admitting he wants us to pay him to haul away his junk rather than actually thinking his stove reaching the end of its lifespan was a manufacturer defect. Dear God, I'm so glad this job pays well. Too long didn't read until a customer finds the one return situation too ridiculous for our policy. Dude, I'd be embarrassed as fuck trying to return a 12-year-old appliance. Like, it's one thing to just simply get it fixed up a little bit and sell it on Facebook Marketplace, but to try and return it for full cost and full value after 12 years of using it? Like, what are you expecting? For them to just foot the bill on your appliance after it being there for 12 years? Like, dude, the logic just is not there. Like, if you want to get some money back after you use an item for a fairly large amount of time, then, like, sell it secondhand or donate it for a tax write-off. Do one of those things. Don't try to return it, dude. That's embarrassing. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.